Yeah, also die Jefferson moja da.
Do opening prayers.
Dolo domara jibe jai no bara jibe ge tarba tam tam chin chen be pardu ju bara jiba tam ji je zu jibe ma nam ka tan nyam be sim chen tam ji de wa dang de lu ma tan chi nyor tu la na mi ba yang ta bara zo be chang jo ren bo chi to bara cha da la dang bara chi be cha no bara chi be ge tar ba tang tam chi chen be par tu ju bara chi tam chi je zu chi be ma nam ka tang nyam be sim chen tam chi de ba tang de du ma ra tang chi Nyor de la na mi bara yang ta bara zo be chang chu ren bo chi to bara cha. English.
All matter sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Te chi tu san ma ji ji hua tu nu nga yi son ge wa la gu ru ma shi hua tu nu nga yi ge wa la gu ru tu de ren ne song de nu ma san ta e sam ji hua tu nu nga yi son ge wa la gu.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. So we come back to our text. We are in the 10 necessary things, and we are now on verse 6. It says, you need to keep your resolve steady and unwavering with the armor of courage. So the simile is it's like an armor. So you need a courage, a determination, and that is firm, stable, just like when you have like a body armor, then nothing can affect you, nothing can harm or hurt you. And so this now here it refers to I'm not becoming disturbed by the afflictive emotions, such as laziness. So this a steady and unwavering resolve, it says. So it implies that we have to continue unwaveringly. So this determination also is related to not clinging to the various things that may arise and may make us think that I can't do it. Even in a mundane sense, often people say that some mundane activity, they don't have the courage to do it. They think that I just can't do it, something like that. I can't do it. And then also what happens, of course, in the Dharma, people say, I just can't really do it. I can't practice it. But in reality, there's nothing not to be able to do. Anybody can practice the Dharma because we have a precious human body with it's a 6 elements or kind of a 6 constituents. So qualities that make us a precious human being. And so therefore we can practice the Dharma. But for that, we need a firm resolve, which is a commitment. So the commitment must be firm, because if it's not firm, then sometimes it goes well, and you do your things, but then again things come up, and you feel like I can't do this or that. I will do it later at some other time. So we get sidetracked with something. Something comes up, and then we don't continue what we were doing. And so to hold a firm resolve means to not to deviate to some kind of sidetrack, not to go off somewhere else. But whatever you do, whatever activity or practice you do, you keep at it without wavering.
我当然可让通讯气球嘛，是年球气球嘛，让通讯比较是，先去下，没先别气头，没给气头给没有头的几块的上，路气头上，我路女上，这人个结果的是，我这人个结，这国家的人个不是要我嘛，你看去吧，没着别看样嘛，从着土个的，你看那的，就为那，就今天你看着土个的，就为那，那么那这边的水嘛，查的所学的，这有人不学的，上嘛从哪走，这是土老上嘛，同样是他们的抢。在抢送的过程中，这次对当啊，嘛充分能把这些罗马的加拿大上么过路，他的上么在当地去了当啊，上嘛这话去了个充分能么着，是他们家的人头他就现在在学的哦，去了么着上，这是我是现在的，这是我是啥子？但目前买些啥子做啊？过路人的查看的数据啥修建的话，像啥建的话，这做啥我对，这做这啥的的，这这路啥的的，这个路说。我没得下，这就下说下次我干不下，如果我下，我这那这路干的下了下子，这没来的发现，他这个说亲自啥了，过去特别没来的说没来的话，那这偏见他去拍这个这啥的说，他就去这个没干的说特别拉比较的，我当时就穷我了一下，这样的，我这就开的，这没来的话，国家你说这就要的的，我真的这按照你们把这那里看的那。在上班这当那个看的那个的说的，就做那个来的。你那这个来是在他在这里头的没有大，这其实那边那个偏头是有的家土的是，这个来是有家，他来管着土的是跟前也是用的是。前面他在第是这边个来的是有啥的，其他着土呀，把那个不差的个。我这里这你个的国家头要我们着土嘛的是，我这呢。初步他们就写了，他初步写了这段。老会初步问题是，就那他在初步这样的，可是他这样是休息年，他休息就嘛是，前两几天进的也得是那种，他就今年忙不有的，这就去的，他说其他对就嘛是，你嘛没来的话这，这就花几轻松的这程度，那花几轻松没有看年嘛，用吃了都没来的话，这没有看年嘛用吃，我这种啊，
con che simbolo?
没先把摄影的这个上面看见。全马上，没先把这吃的，他就把这穷人这个，把这穷都没什么没可能年嘛用吃。生活的时候给他们来的吧，像马上在老忙着的家在去呢，要不都没那就，因为没谁度假的，没去哪去，生活都是在那的，现在着急面好了，那着急面是，那你看手机通常着急面好了，这生活的 老人日本几天出去嘛，去白天老板不上嘛的这老人想，那就让几天出去炸过呀嘛，都是日本几天出去过上嘛的事，好了想，对。也可以那那样的人做这边是够，那种做完的那其实这样的人冇得看嘛年了，人冇得这弄这点，自己去都这么多啊。我这真的做过，但这也是能把讲总是能把怎么总是特别就那么钱嘛多把怎么说他的强势能把可能那能把这个要我送过，真不送过，那么上海那里真的真的那么后面那他老是那么别强的，就是没人在办的。他这样的人民他和他这样的我这说能办得大，我这说能他这点我老那人家呢，他送来了，这偏多有的是，
Kita sivu mentuk.
啊，你们都会。
Mm.
我但是人民他和他就是没他这办中，人民他和他这种这那么恐怕是说能谈得大，我这空那把人们看对清楚，我空那边人们起码能用俺起上，我这对清那这空那把的这块话来研究。我真的这话你们俩的专注，这看对起的我制作一查过个哇。
So then, and then also, so when no, about I'm not when we think I can't do this, I'm not able to do this. So it's actually a kind of a form of laziness, where we kind of a form of self-deprecation. We look down on ourselves and think I can't do it, and so that is something we have to give up thinking this way. Rather, you should think that so there's no reason I can't do it. If other people can do it, then I can do it as well. If you have this attitude, then you can accomplish anything, and not just in the Dharma, also in the world. For example, in the past, when Milarepa was staying in Jakarta, so there was a time where all his food had run out, and he was basically naked. He didn't have any clothing, and so everything became quite scarce. And so there was a moment then when he thought that maybe I should go to town and ask for some food, beg for some alms. But then he had a second thought, and he thought that no, I'm going to stay here until I attain enlightenment. I will not go anywhere until I attain enlightenment. And so he stayed just eating nettles and nothing else. So he was really on the verge of starving to death. And even his skin is said to have turned blue because he was just sustaining himself on nettles. But he stayed and practiced. And so Milarepa was really someone who practiced the Dharma with such courage and such determination. And so this is how what we should take as an example when we practice the Dharma, or whenever some kind of affliction arises in us. Of course, to practice the Dharma or to accomplish anything meaningful is difficult. So we have to make an effort. We have to work hard for anything. And if you don't give up, then and you keep going, anything can be accomplished. But you just can't give up when things get difficult. If you give up when things get difficult, you do not wear this armor of determination and courage. And so this really is true for anything that we do, whether it's a Dharma activity or a mundane activity. So when we, for example, come back to Milarepa's story, so he stayed there practicing, he didn't go. And there were some people who would say, some disciples, wouldn't it be better if you go into town and take a little bit care of yourself? Or have you encountered some obstacles in your practice? It looks like you are having some obstacles. And Milarepa persevered, and he said that the obstacle really is the 8 worldly concerns, and this is what I have abandoned. And so therefore,
yeah.
So then so that part of the eighth worldly concern was what his sister said that to him. And so she felt quite kind of ashamed for him, and she thought it would be better if he would go and looked after himself. And so he basically said, I have abandoned the eight worldly concerns. I have no need for that. And so essentially he didn't listen to her, and he did not go anywhere. And so this is one inspiring story. And so when these moments come up in your mind, you can look at these stories from the past masters, how they have practiced, in particular in the Vajrayana. Masters like Gampopa or Milarepa, all the past masters, how have they practiced? And then when you read about that, then it can help you gain your resolve, where you think that I'm going to do this, I'm going to practice like that. And for example, the kind of renunciation that they had for samsara and how diligent they practiced the Dharma. So when you read those life stories, you will learn about all that.
다다 나시는 아주 폐지하면 참아져있다. 성제 창조 수반라서 남파트 지류. 남다선 야본도 자면서 성 소소 전화시 시선이 섬도 폐지 제약을 하고 그랬다. 지가를 하고 그랬어. 저는 오늘 전에 님에다 고마도 조제 남파트 최제 지하도 너무 봐. 조제다 제조도 저 저는 루치네 갈래자 루치는 상제시는 오세. 저는 저 최샤는 사로. 대가래 같이 더 거만 보자 자로. 저는 냠한테 루치스. 텔된 주트 루치는 로스. 저는 다들 제주 말아래 봐. 다보는 뭐지라. 당황 타마제 나도 좀 봐. 샤드 다보는 뭐지 파 추제요. 추티 파르파 통사도 말아 레베다 소쇼 제. 이 담아제 나도 오스. 샤드 다 다보는 메리스 프고레스 메리스 프고 마레스. 대 공회 레 나자티 야고 온도 되나 봐. 온도 택배 깔래 잡자니고 그 TV 온도 나이 차노 봐. 온도 샤. 대 차데 되네. 당가 깔래는 나지 잡이. 수난 깔래인데 나지죠. 드프트지레스. 대자 타고를 뭐빼 샘 잡고나 되 정도 와. 대다디 니마 자와를 뭐지 말아래 빈 뭐 롱난도 와. 샤티간 티 말아래 베티 다티 온도에서 봐 타고를 뭐 내가 제대로 자와를 빼坚强的 빼 뭐뭐 시 뭐도 좀 도시라. 다 들을 깔래 잡아. 들으래다. 보는 와래. 등어랑 쪽에 다른工作在上界强调什么来说主要的这个系统嘛这말에 말아래 백성 와래 지 도전强调样上界强调什么可能基本上是这个我基本上经常做了啥的上界强调什么基本上推荐没做清嘛的是我刚才说吧这样子我真的就准备七万蛮通的想要做强调主要的什么就当那个他们的这里呢想就准备七万蛮通的是就准备两年才进呢这个然后从这边突破的送多
So when we hear about the life stories of those great masters, of the great bodhisattvas, then we think that they are so wonderful, but we don't really actually feel like I will do that too. I will be just like that, and we just think that that is nice, what they have been doing. So actually, when we look at the past stories, the life example that they have said, these life stories were written down for future followers so that they can learn about how they have achieved great results as a result of enduring many hardships and practicing with perseverance. For example, there's a story about Milarepa and Gampopa. So there was kind of the last.
Gampopa ma ucho ando shora de je de la ban ji ma wa ti ji. 로 내가 막 팔이 지인도 와서 지서도 추파를 들어가 통지 매다 추출을 만들지 추파 통세 파 통사는 다 소쇼어요. 들리노.
So Milarepa gave his last instruction to Gampopa when Gampopa was set to leave to go to central Tibet, and so he left, and he already had to cross a river. But then Milarepa called him back And he said, come back one more time, and I have to give you one last instruction. So then he came back and he wanted to offer a mandala first, and Milarepa said that's not necessary. And then he pulled up his robe and he showed him his butt, and his butt had all these scars. It was like yeah, say really rough, and so he said, "This is my instruction to you. Just look at it. If you, it is a kind of a testimony of the perseverance of how long I've sat on this butt. If you practice like this, you will also attain accomplishments." And so that was his last instruction. Also, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama once gave a reading transmission alone on the 100,000 songs of Milarepa, and he came to that story, he started to cry, started to weep, and he just almost couldn't read the text anymore. He was so overwhelmed by the hardship, reading about the hardship that Milarepa and had endured, and the accomplishment that came from it. So it is something we can do. We can practice. We shouldn't think that, oh, these are the great beings, the great bodhisattvas. I'm not like that. Also, once some disciples asked Milarepa, so who are you an emanation of? Is it like the Buddha Vajradhara or some other great Nirmanakaya? And Milarepa said, actually, you are having a real wrong views. Of course, it's good that you have such a pure perception, but also you have to know, I've been an ordinary person, a very sinful person. He said that it maybe I'm an emanation, maybe I'm a tulku, a tulku of, tulku is Nirmanakaya. I'm a rebirth of like a lower hell, not hell, like a being of the lower realms. Yeah. But thinking that I'm just like this Buddha is a wrong view. What my example should show you that if you practice hard, you can gain this result. I was an ordinary person. I practiced hard. I gained this result. So if you practice like I did, you will also gain these results.
咱今天中国南派当年的生天他们强调能够是生天他们的上级碰碰过让国家情报过的中多这就去过的是
And Jigden Songren said you need to, so the more like resolve is to think that I want to attain enlightenment, may attain enlightenment for all beings, limitless as space.
大家国常别个土党国家土党对我的土满意吧土党对开的是呢他唐宝推开的是呢莫会那么过什么着吧的这莫会那么过什么着吧对那么多
tini kale sunguni
他莫会那么过什么着吧他这真的你看瞧吧他闲话前面你看把在他路当主要等你真的明白那边人家生天去对话的都拿出说我这样什么当样的爽这唐人前呢他们这个什么可能呢他在没开些亚波人通波的开些嘛我的做你吧什么就我的呀不呀那个现在没中多什么唐人讲的那他们都中多俺说唐人讲俺的可不多什么唐人讲在哪些的他们这个什么吧就我不呀行냠俩치우도 남토다 제 년반의 제 상에 가리 샤나 로뇽 투야 링치 당데 마 링치 당데 마 로뇽 치야 되든가 어다 게데 있어서 게제 바 토나 치토야 초 어드네 단코로 안마 통화 단 전에 선천 통 전에 치야라 가리 가시 자고 저도 미바 다 뒤듬보 가시 자고 자세요 뒤듬보 드레스 와다디 고창빅 투기담 고자 드스
And there are 7 armor like practices by Gyalpa Gotsangpa, and so these are so 7 things that we have to practice, keep to heart. And the first one is to practice a devotion that sees the guru as the three kayas. Then secondly, to give up all mundane activity forcefully, so to cut through all these mundane activities. Then number three, to practice unobjectified, unconditional compassion for all sentient beings, where their happiness and their suffering all directly arises in your own mind. And number four, to cultivate a pure perception toward anyone, high or low or in between, without thinking, oh, this one is better or this one is worse, higher or lower. Gotcha Rinpoche always tells us that there is no better practice than the practice of a pure perception. And of course, that's quite difficult for most of us. So that's four. Number five is to practice through any difficulties, any thoughts or negative situations, conditions that arise, good or bad, it all has to become of an equal taste, the same. Then number six is to precisely any moment practice virtue, give up non-virtue. And number seven is to tirelessly act for the benefit of sentient beings until the end of samsara. So no matter how difficult it may get, one should persevere for the sake of sentient beings. So these are the seven practices of good Sampa.
我就当我处在娘们使用的，娘们开始使用的提纲暑假，我这两门头的在期间呢，在现在娘们顶不掐死一个吧。对啊，娘们他的小的大从这些的全部让娘们先把在期间的，我这六现在这顶不没了，现在是娘们顶不掐，这是搞的好，当他查，把这个这样，这个这样的，顶不起来没了掐死一个吧。我听就等我处在这看，就连说的娘们开始使用的了，看突突娘们就他能别重启，我这期间呢，真的。되게 그 가르쳐 지나고 공부 많이 공부해 나가라 되게 컴퓨터 때는 저 냠한테 하고 저 차가 어떻게 용식을 어떻게 되나서 어저서 템포 치트가 지고야 저 개침버리로와
And so whatever practice you're doing, you should stick to the practice and persevere in that practice. If you keep doing it, then it will eventually, you will reach some stability in the practice. But if you always switch around and you think that, oh, this doesn't really do anything, there's no result, maybe I should practice something else. If you have this mindset, then it's very hard to develop any kind of stability. Often we think that, oh, maybe there's something other, something better than this, and then we kind of hop back and forth between different practices. So this is not how we will attain any stability. So whatever practice you're doing, make an effort in that practice and keep habituating it. So it is said that practice means to habituate. It's not to meditate on something. It means to habituate. And if you habituate, then it's really possible that your practice will become stable.
我真的他明白的嘞，他前面前面就把那他没那么小个辛苦是啊，他前面前面像小半米吧，先半米吧，他小线米吧是过去的。这就当他小线做这样做，可惜他培育班过那个让俺做，如你们青年培育班那在，你看出去没把强着的，这第四个靠不来，培育班的没有了，这条件介绍用的嘞。没那的平个嘛种，我这先穷穷的呢，没这穷讲这先进步的帮那先穷穷的，这先得路才从马过去都是，我这样这个先得比亚的模样从马过去都是先穷穷的别家是吧？我这了人家吃饭就用都是那多，我真的的，先一那的康巴一那的，他没有这类呢，日出一那，怎么着？我这两这个桥是先加些许都种多样的，当多的呢。 但可以，但这你看去怎么帮是那个，他帮助做的当然都想帮，在你们那前提个，在怕帮助他们些个说，在条件没有你那的，错那的，但可以那这但，怎么地方我那个里可不有的，真是，但条件刚穷穷起，那样子，我这那他没那么学过些故事，那他现那他会加上的，我做服务员那路那个牙齿可以听那路多，那牙齿只要有嘛是吧？晓得我这那些他可以吃些就从等这个嘛的，那你们来起头嘛，对嘛的，你们来去他可以爬在吃在就说在吃在就开起，但是你们来起啊，我来想这个也是，我这那他没那么学的，他没有来学嘛，送的是过来也是，我这可能吃惯没吧，是那个就过来这种多，我这呢，当然是的，我们就看到这种多，汤不俺些大了，先觉得是。我当不俺是打了些，但俺的是打肯定些我的强就是那个的是他家那是我不强的是吧？我收取钱的让我明着了你就行了，收取钱了，但俺说这你们俩青年那可以那这说俺家那可以抢谁的，家那穷穷可以，我当然对的是打肯定我晓得是，那收取钱的让我明白，咱收取钱这去过来家在那里吧。我在那一刻，着了人家去让特兰队，是我等着你那个去让特队先上的吧。
Um, and so then the next, we'll come to the next verse, number 7. You need to be unattached and free from clinging so as to avoid letting the rope to your nose slip into the hands of others. So you need to be unattached. And so some people say, abandon your homeland. You should abandon your homeland and be completely free from the 8 worldly concerns. And so that is a little bit difficult to do. And even if we do that, actually, wherever we go, we might still find something to be attached to. That's also one thing Milarepa told Rajumba, is that when you go into a mountain retreat, into isolation, so you have to abandon, how do you say, like so you have to abandon the strong attachment, basically. So whether it is to your house or to your field, and because otherwise, even if you go to an isolated place, you will still find something to do there, a field to plow, a house to build. So it's mainly the mind. The mind has to be unattached to places, to people, companions. It's difficult to actually physically abandon all of that. And even if we do and go somewhere else, we will still find something to be attached to there. So then it says here, you should not let the rope to your nose slip into the hands of others. So don't give your nose rope to someone else, meaning that, so in Tibet, they would put a rope through the nose of a yak, and then they would pull, and then that's how they make the yak go somewhere. If without the nose rope, then the yak won't go anywhere. So they need those ropes to pull the yak. And so it is kind of an example of someone who lets people just pull them around. So one person pulls by your nose rope over here, and you go there, and another one pulls there, and you go over here. So you keep going back and forth, depending on wherever people lead you to go or make you go. So don't give your nose rope to somebody else, because if you do, you will just go back and forth without having a real chance to practice. So it says, therefore, do not give your nose rope away and be unattached. So then in a text, in a sutra called the Madhyama Kavatara, the entering it to the middle way, it says that first there arises an attachment to the self and I, and then a real solid attachment arises. So this attachment solidifies. And then as it solidifies, it becomes like a mill, like a water mill that keeps turning, a mill that keeps turning, becomes like a mill. And once the mill spins, you have lost all your autonomy. So teniti bardo rama meba yera.
rāngā mī pārā, sī rāngā yō mā rā. Wā tī yīndū tī chā tāng tī lī tēnī ngā tsū pēntō yō, jī tāng tā ngā rāng tsū pēntō yō mā rā. Yī nā tī tā ngā tsū tī chī tō kio mā, chā tāng tī yī nō bā mē yō mā rā. Wā tī tī chā tāng tī lī tēnī, dā nī yā tsā mā tī lī chā mī pā rā. Tī lī tēnī ngā tsū mā tī nā tsū jē yō kio rā tī. Mā tī nā tsū jē yō kio rā. Tī yīndū tī chā tāng tsū sī bāng tsū nā ngā tsū dā yā tsū tō mē bā rā chā rā. 我这对路边那罗那外面去先别清这多，那嘛这不去罗站这年毛毛痛嘛，这提起那个嘛的是，先把这个人小样子节目提起那个的是条件那外面去先别清，先把球先那罗把，说他做过的先把这就过的是，我这对他俺做当地这条件这样子做的，在帮助呀，咱别从起工说，在帮助那俺做开始是呢。 these pengere ngalang so la pengere wa tene wa patro da chowa so la pengere sama la pengere so tenga so te cha de yo le de lo be cha xian kan gan ma zo ko ryo cha ban nian zhe gun ba ne jing bu na sa de zhou gong ba gong si da jing bu na sa de zhou gong ba ren si da do sen ni na da mi la ma gong ba de zhu zhe
kan det som så
cha xian kan gan ma na 그리고 차단 예를 그 방에서 그리고 차단 예를 상황 방에 진부 나 답을 주고 받고 무슨라요로 어때 가르스는 지도단 나다를 주고 받이나 지도나도 베드 트리 아직이 말아리 베 지도 저송점이 타유방에 이게 추지 요마 지키리 슬람도 텐데 용지리 안티자드 년코도 제 자냐트 용세 저 등하다 샘사바 쇼고 그래 자방서 마 충충지 샘티가 마 냠냐치네 티가 망고 놓다 어떤 배송 치고 싶어서 봐
yeah, so these thoughts of attachment and aversion that then arise from this thought of me, they don't actually benefit us in any way. No, but what we want for them will never actually be accomplished. We only develop many concepts of friend and enemy, and these make us feel very uneasy and unhappy. If you are able to let go of these feelings of attachment and aversion, there won't be any enemies and friends at all. Everyone is the same. Tilopa said to Naropa, he said, son, it's not the appearances that bind you, that keep you in bondage. It's your fixation to them that keeps you in bondage. Therefore, give up your fixation to appearances, you're grasping at appearances. So he's saying that there's no harm caused by various appearances. You can perceive many different things that doesn't harm you. But you have to cut through the attachment to these things, because it's the attachment that harms you. So we have to make an effort in abandoning self-grasping, the attachment to the self. And that will be to our own greatest advantage. And also it will help others, it will benefit those around us. And Tilopa said also in the Ganges Mahamudra, he said that so some give up them give up worldly concerns, attachment to samsara. Worldly beings wander senselessly in samsara, and that is the seed of suffering. So therefore, give up worldly concerns. And even also Milarepa had said that it's really about giving up the concern in the mind. So when we say that he abandoned his homeland, or we have to abandon our homeland, it's possible that even in that new place, you will again encounter enemies and friends. So it's not about going in a different place, but it's important to reduce, abandon our attachment and aversion.
他就当在我当初在拉亚做这一次的，俺之后出门从帮叔叔然后最多过的拉票嘛，在桥当你可以提过一个嘛的是，作为呢，他在俺当初线下其他钱呢，之后出门给钱嘛的，可以拿仓嘛的线下的，这些呢，这两人在你去穷的嘞是在拉票的吧？那这样他在仓嘛帮都过的在拉票嘛的，在帮出票嘛，让俺说在这边来的反正，才留言的嘛，他这帮出嘛，他那这俺说线下穷的些呢。说啦，这上网写的这个，现在钱这边呢，动画节有个多吧，太老实了。
So the reason for saying this is that you don't have to abandon or give up your friends, your companions. The point is to give up the attachment to them, and it's not just your friends. It's really anything, any kind of situation, because of course most people cannot give up everything, just like Mila Reba did. But what we have to give up is our attachment, because we can see when we are less attached, we are more at peace in our mind, and the more attached we are to someone or something, the more miserable we are.
我真的，他这样做，那他们嘛确实啦，说这他希望去那这让我明白，这确实呢，这西图嘛，人家去那的，那个呢，上当 drop 图嘛，那个可能呢，这 drop 图个了，那他过这是那他没了的嘛，说过说这个的也是，现在的嘛说吧，去过的是，希望他们让我他们对吧意思，希望他们东哪里了，我让我说不别这个，我这真的让我这掐住个是，对你说，他们家电报的结果的是。你嘛马路老啥，对起码家下在送了哇，我对家下这对呢，他老嘛子修老清楚了，他家下蛮多事，可是去家下他们修这样过了，老嘛这种在当时，老嘛可以当，然后呢，他可是他说蛮去你当过嘛，俺这接了下，但俺经常说话这他妈都得吃一次，我这了对去那这这他妈都得吃几满事，俺当这意思。从把这从讲这里，那如果给那，咱们就是有的是过别的家了嘛，没。
Karapi?
从把给破说呢，你嘛从把尊重过来样的都他了。这可能咱们就全部有的是，如果给那，咱们就全部有了。我这别的那些的是我给人这样做嘛，头有嘛，逻辑是，我想那逻辑，所有通那逻辑，现在说看人没事。咱们这几块的可能那怎么俺写出，是怎么俺娘俩去这边呢？提个没弄来，俺还会说是，其实所有通家俺这这学了蛮年了，没来这个，但是那种他们家顶不过学生，那他们没学生呢。
So we should
没乱
not
了啥了吧？没乱了啥。
we should not give our nose rope to somebody else. So that's the meaning of that. So basically it means do not give your freedom away to somebody else. If you give your freedom away to somebody else, you have no more, you're unfree. And that goes for the Dharma and also the mundane world. And then you can't really accomplish much. So you should hold on to your own nose rope and not give that rope to someone else. It is also said that all freedom is happiness, and giving your freedom to others is suffering. So you should have a firm commitment in that. Once in the past, when Marpa was alive, he intended to travel to India for the last time. He was already quite old at that time. And so at that time, some of his disciples were quite worried about him because he was already a bit older. And they said, please don't go, you're way too old. If there's anything you need to bring back from India, you can send a few disciples and they can go bring it for you. And Marpa insisted, no, I will go. there's no way I will send somebody else. And then they said, well, then at least take somebody with you, like your son Dharma, and bring someone with you. And he said, no, I will go alone. I will go by myself. And so he said, I'm just like an old seasoned traveler, like an old seasoned. There's, in the past in Tibet, there were these merchants, there's traders who were going around with their yaks to far distant places, and they knew the road because they've gone so many times. So he said, I'm just like this old seasoned traveler. I know where I'm going. I know the dangers I may encounter, and I know that I can overcome them, that nothing can harm me because I have my practice. So even if my life would be at stake, I will not stay here. I will go. So he did not listen. So that was the kind of resolve that he had.
다 듣는데 다 나랑서 듣는 차로 소리 듣네 뒤니 다 제가도 냐면 간도 치고래 사대 전수 지나서 다 저거를 손동안 리사리 네 다시 한다니까
So we leave it with that for today. Just what you should take from it is thinking that whatever practice I'm doing right now, I'm going to do my best in it. So now we have time for a couple of questions. Let's see. Beings think I at first and cling to self. They think of mine and are attached to things. They thus turn helplessly as buckets on a water wheel and to compassion for such beings about on. Oh, I think that's the quote. The quote the lung And what does it mean to fixate to appearance, grasp at appearance? Nang wala jin se atirwa pakaris.
나만 지시야 예 나만 지시야 때 처리 더 와서다 아
Tilopa songso.
나만 이제 신배 진짜 예 나만 지시야 다这边想的是我做炸松炸的上面金巴节用过啊我真的지시야 다真지시로 소리 그런 자 지통 통디든 지바미는 자티 노쇼마 방에 자리 상대 송도 하시도 들 때는 자티게 자들 때는 요라 첨보제 차효를 가서 자리 상 소소지 그렇게 자들라 소랑 자지쇼 때는 요라 차효든 나는 지선의 자 지하동 배상的样子对对先教人呢先把这些在用那是先把强的自己做出来啊我真自己想那特别啥的意思
So grasping at appearances is that, for example, when you hear a sound and then you think that's that sound, there's that sound. So that is like a grasping thought. You're kind of going to that sound. There's that sound. If there's no grasping at the sound, you know that there's a sound, but you don't have a thought about that sound. So it doesn't affect you in any way. But once you go there, oh, there's that sound, then it has some kind of effect on you. And then so through this being drawn to that sound, then all kinds of other problems can arise. So that's the grasping. So grasping at something then leads to clinging and attachment.
我觉得我做人嘛，服务的别解有的，可是呢，没这说话工作拉是吧？这没这年做人样的，这菜都家拉出来可了。这怕菜都家在了，这说话工作是年的，做菜都家在了，这个他说话工作嘛，那这从的了的，人生他这样子这样的呢，就当没看啊嘛，那边这样子怎么，这那嘛的我说吧。
There's a story in Tibet. There was this person who was practicing patience, and somebody else came to test their patience and said something really offensive to the person. And so the person got really angry and the patient just went out the window. And so that is grasping. So somebody said something and the person was, oh, that's what he said. And then he got angry. So that's the grasping. And appearance is really anything that we perceive, something that we see with our eyes or hear with our ears and so on.
tene ta nga rang su di sa gom ja yin sir wa gar ma jo ro ta gom ja te cha go ta ga ma jo sa de
So shall we meditate for?
我做ta nga rang su gom ja de se sen ma yin ba chin ta se sen rong wa xia sen ma yin ba chin de lu di sin ja ma chi to na de ji pian to qie yo sa da ze ma bo nang ju na hang ze chen ne to ma to ga me yu go xia de ze sen ma yin ba chin rong wa xia ho chi na de de是gom ja na ya bo sa le
So when you meditate, it's most important that you are undistracted and you can just rest in a just natural state. Uh, if you try to force a certain posture, this and that, then and you feel in pain or uncomfortable, then you can't stay with the meditation. So just be very relaxed and just rest naturally and without any distraction.
我老师真的讲不讲，那那底是。
I'll be meditate for a little bit.
真的，大体我说今天总共给这里给些这期，他的这样。
Let's conclude with the Chicken Sumgan dedication prayer.
ده مع الأشراع ده.
Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, root lamas, divine assembly of Hirams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions. Please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, precious, complete, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
一个程度看了痛的人，
好啊，
切包是那一个多人，
다른
他没法强住，然后嘛是做么子什么，
driva
我看了的，对对对，
die 냠는 다음에다 파 주어 마트나 야가레스 하고도 다이나 양 잠장 다음에다 딱시시고 마르웨스 티니 가라 야가레 티티 하고라
来呀呀，他说吧，而且当时西南这些，不那么当时西南这一和西南这些听呢，蒙古当时修在西南听这样，所说你们这就不打话当时去听呢，经济上面的小样应该有了吧？对面西南这个人，这个这个，你们去当时去了买几盘，可是个老票嘛，这当所说让你们看得起个颠簸起过的也是。你们去啊，他当所说在做其中，他当时去哪去都就嘛，所说一起去过的，我一起去呢，他在去呢。他的那充这些用个的也是，我这里他别想着是，你嘛俺做这朋友些送给的，他这年来在起的，在起的，咱的那用什么那他开始在查些上，我常常别想着在用查些上，听这别想的写的就嘛是，年来有嘛是你给拉头是，这就拉多。
So there's one more question. It says that so Rinpoche said we shouldn't jump from practice to practice. I get that, but isn't it okay to experiment with various practices at first to see which one we want to commit to? And so of course you can investigate, examine the practice, but then you don't want to overanalyze it too, because if you overanalyze everything, you will not end up with any practice that you're actually doing. And so we're not saying that you can't analyze different practices, you try different things. If you can try different things, but then once you settle for a practice, then you have to stick to it with stability. So you analyze first, you pick the right practice, but then you don't keep analyzing it. Because if you do that, then you will end up with no real practice. So then once you have your practice, what's more important then is to believe. And then through that belief, you will gain results. Drupal Yeshe, which is Drupal's retreat master, is that often people jump around between practices or thinking that first they want to do this, but then they feel maybe something else is better. And then they go there, or they read a book and then they think there's another one that's even better. So they keep going around, hopping around between different practices and things to read. But then in the end, he said, you end up with no real book, no knowledge of a book, and no practice.
我讲这个别晓得这写出来，太老长时间的，现在太老的写的，没别讲，你们俩这边你可以没有晓得是。
De tabte en romgeigel siinä.
나는 나비 태양종 여러 배想的雄中就是对呢，对写出来了的上，你们俩写的个，假设你们俩在马上太要我写对面，你们俩在他嘛写，你可以没把晓得的是。
So sometimes, now here we're speaking of not any books, but like meditation books, Buddhist books, and so it could happen that you're there meditating, and then you feel that maybe I should read a book about meditation, then maybe I understand it a little bit better. So then you stop meditating, you take your book, you read your book, but because of your jumpy mind, you move on to the next thing. So basically you end up not learning anything about meditation and not meditating.
但这方写出来这种类是跟我这么说的是的。
Yeah, so that's what Drupal was trying to
这
say.
方写的没写这种类是，特别简单的他的。
Okay, so yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. See you next week.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you.
Gracias.
Good night. Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Shashidale.
Gracias, Sina.
Gracias, Sofía. Good to see you, Juan.
See you. I kissed the baby.
Yeah, thank you. At the door.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. 下个星期见，拜拜。
Bye, Rocco.
Hi,
Bye,
Aina.
Rocco.
Hi.